Nuanced Beauty is a podcast where we try to tease out the complexity, or as I say, the nuance, in any given topic so that we can acknowledge the tension there and hold space to see the beauty in it, the beauty in ourselves and the beauty in others and relationships. It's not easy seeing beyond our own opinions, but there's wisdom in the pursuit. So join us. Hi guys, welcome back to Nuanced Beauty. This week I am bringing another interview to you with a friend named Lisa. Lisa and I met probably a decade ago through a mutual connection back in the Seattle, Tacoma area. And at the time, we had hung out a couple of times with a group of girlfriends, and we've really been loosely connected via Facebook friends. However, recently, Lisa invited me to like her business page called Mensonique. And I was intrigued. So Lisa is a fashion designer, seamstress, and she does a lot of alterations for wedding dresses and special occasions. And for me, I feel like this interview falls into the realm of not your typical 9-to-5er. So I asked if she would be up for doing a show, and she said yes. So with that, welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Let's jump right into it. Would you mind sharing with our listeners what got you interested in alterations and fashion?
Yeah, definitely. So it was actually my mom. So I started sewing when I was about 10 years old, and my mom wanted me to learn how to sew each summer because she
Okay.
thought it was an important skill to have.
That is
And
crazy.
then
Good for you.
yeah, thanks. So I first sewed a teddy bear, which she did most of the work because I wasn't super interested. And then the next summer I sewed some skirts, which I thought that was pretty cool because making clothing made me really excited.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then I started getting into making purses after that. And then when I went to school, girls started noticing these purses I made, and they were like, "Make me one." And so that feeling was pretty exciting to me because I was like, "Hey, people like my style. That's pretty cool."
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Was that like
yeah,
high school or was that like college years?
that was high school.
Oh,
So
that is cool. So you kind of had like this little side hustle business in high school.
a little bit, yeah. And what the one purse I remember was I went through a ton of magazines and I cut out all these different clippings of like famous people or dresses or just things I liked. And then I collaged them all and put them on contact paper. And then so I essentially like laminated them in a way, but with contact paper.
Oh,
And
okay.
then usually when you sew, you put the seams together, you sew the, right sides together and flip it inside out. Well, I did it the
Uh-huh.
reverse, so the seams were on the outside. But
Okay.
anyways, I'm just geeking out right now. But, yeah, so then I started, like, carrying that purse around at school, and girls were like, "Where'd you get that?" I'm like, "I made it." And they're like, "That's so cool, like, make me one." So, it was just kinda creative sewing on plastic. Yeah, it was kind of a fun, different creative
Now, do you
project I had
still
gotten into.
create these purses or is this the thing in the past?
This is a thing of the past.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also got into, like, making messenger bags out of corduroy and stuff, and girls also like those, and I made some of those for people too. So, yeah, I guess it was a smattering of different purses.
Okay.
But
And then fast forward after high school, did you go to college or like some sort of trade school to get the basics?
yeah, I went to, George Fox and got a fashion merchandising degree. So I took, sewing classes, and patterning classes as well. And it was there that my college professor approached me and asked if I would be interested in doing alterations because she was getting emails from other students on campus needing like their bridesmaids dresses altered. So
Hmm.
she was like, "Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Sure." So I started in that, but I was pretty like insecure about it. I told the first customer, I guess you could say, that I didn't really know what I was doing, but she was like, "I trust you. I know you'll do a good job." And it was
Oh,
kind of
that's
like
great.
her right? It was like her encouragement that was like, "Okay, I can do this." Like, it spurred me
Yeah.
on. So, yeah, it was fun,
And
um,
from
and scary.
there, you finished out college, and then it sounds like you went right into alterations.
Yes, I initially started working at a bridal shop in Lakewood, Washington. But I started as actually working the sales floor, but I learned some tricks from the seamstress that was working there. And then one day she didn't show up to work, and there was a whole rack of wedding dresses needing to be altered. And so my
Oh my
boss was
gosh.
like,
Were you
"Yeah."
nervous?
I was super nervous. The first
Okay.
dress I needed to get done was a bridesmaid's dress, and like, I think the way I did the alterations in college was kinda, like, quick and easy, but, like, this was had to be, like, super professional, so I think it took me, like, 8 hours to alter this bridesmaid's dress just by, like, taking the sides in, which that's actually a really long time, because I had never, like, really truly done it, like, super professionally,
Okay.
um
So
so
just for
now
like context, you said 8 hours is a really long side. So if you were just taking in the sides, what would how long would it take you today, like years into your trade?
I think that particular dress, it maybe now would take me in, like, an hour to 2 hours.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you you were being very cautious. That's very good.
Yes. Yeah, I was terrified, actually, of making a mistake, so I just went really slow.
Okay. And I guess from there we kind of chatted beforehand that you branched off into your own business. And then more recently you started your storefront. That's why Mensonique Facebook page is created, I'm guessing. So would you
Mhm.
mind kind of sharing the career progression there? Why did you go independent, launch your own business, and how's it been going with the having the storefront?
It's yeah, it's been great. So after that initial bridal shop, I worked at another one, and then I realized, like, sewing is something that is very time consuming and you don't make a ton of money at it. And then working for a bridal shop, they make a cut off of you. So you're not making everything that you put into it in a way. So
Okay.
I thought being able to run my own business, I could make, you know, the full amount of money for what I charge. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of what spurred me on to start my own business. So I ran it out of my house up till basically this past May is when I moved into my little storefront or shop above a tavern. Um,
Congrats.
but yeah, that took what, like 14 years or yeah, a long time to be able to do that. So, and I was able to do that just by I built up my clientele over the years. I have faithful clients, but I also networked with a bridal shop in Puyallup that put me on their preferred seamstress list. So I get a lot of business from them.
Oh, like a referral
Thankfully,
kind of?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So very thankful for that. And then I've done some contract sewing as well. I recently helped Lily Young, who's a fashion designer in Seattle, who has a beautiful storefront. I helped her with her fashion show at the end of September to raise money for Seattle Children's Hospital, which she
Mhm.
was able to raise over $80,000, which is pretty cool. So
Wow, that was a successful shoot. I'm trying to remember, Lily Young, that's a storefront. Is that just wedding gowns, or does she do also like just couture kind of, I don't know, fashion?
yeah, so she does a lot actually. She also designed and made the uniforms for Alaska Airlines, Amazon,
Okay, okay.
and Climate Pledge Arena. And then she also does leisure wear. It's called Luli Leisure.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so she has many different lines, but the main stuff she's done before she got into those other things, it was the couture, the
Okay.
beautifully made clothing, wedding dresses, special occasion wear. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm curious, just hearing what you just shared about her and her designer progression. Do you have aspirations to branch out beyond just wedding dresses? Or is this really like you found your niche, you really love it, and this is just kind of growing the business?
I I would like to design my own stuff. I just feel like my bread and butter is alterations and has been, but I would like to kind of branch out and start dabbling in some of my own creations as well.
That's cool.
Just yeah, to have a
Maybe
creative
that's like
outlet, you
down
know?
the line. I don't even I wouldn't even know where to begin, but it's probably nice to just have a little bit of visionary, just to keep you going.
Definitely. Well, like so now is like my slower season, and now it's instead of just like going into hibernation mode, I want to well maybe do a little bit of that to recover from the
The
summer
wedding
because
season,
this
yeah.
yeah, the wedding season gets
For
pretty crazy.
for those of you
But
who aren't aware of Seattle weather, so like basically May to, would you say September is included? May to September is your
yeah,
time frame, and then
yeah,
it's
yeah,
over.
yeah. There's maybe like one or two weddings I do for like October, November, December. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
you're correct.
Yeah, so that you're coming off of a very, very busy season, and now everyone's hibernating because it gets dark at like 4 or 3,
Yes,
3:34. The sun doesn't rise until 8 or 8:30. Oh, yeah, you're in the rough part.
definitely.
So,
So
kind of continuing with the business, is there anything that you thought like, oh, this is going to be super easy to do, and then you tried to do the thing, and in retrospect, you kind of realize like, oh, that was a lot harder than I planned.
yeah, um, it happens a lot actually, especially with sewing because sewing always takes longer than you think. And I have several different instances. One was a bride; she was a pregnant bride. Well,
Goodness.
she was pregnant when she ordered her dress,
Okay.
but then when her wedding was going to happen, she already had her baby.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
when she ordered the dress, her and the bridal shop were trying to anticipate what size she would be, but this was her first child. She had no idea how her body would be.
Hmm.
So they ordered the dress like at least two to three sizes too big.
Okay.
So I
Thinking that
basically
you'd
had
be
to
able to bring it in.
I had to bring it in on the sides, the middle back, hem it, take up the straps. It was a 6 layer mermaid style gown. And when a dress is so big like that, you also take have to take in each layer of the skirt to match taking in them. Like I had to take the sides in so much. I had to
Okay.
take in the skirt layers as well. And so when you have two sides, there's then that's 12 there's
Ooh,
that's 12
that's a
layers
lot
of
of
skirt.
seams to go
Yeah.
through. I'm picturing, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was covered in glitter and it had lace all over it. So to get at the seams, I have to take the lace off, take in the seams, and then either take the lace off because it was so big.
Okay.
I take some lace off, but then I piece the lace back together to make it look like I didn't touch it. And like the dress was supposed to be that way, but I have to kind of use my creativity there to make sure the pattern looks like the rest of the dress.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And how'd it turn out?
Great, she was happy,
Oh, good.
but that took me 48 hours to alter.
Oh my gosh. Now, for like pricing wise, would that be like, do you charge by the hour, or do you just you put a price out there and it's kind of up to you to come out over under and that kind of affects your profit, or
I try to charge by the hour, and I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty good at giving a pretty accurate estimate. I mean,
okay.
sometimes I go over, sometimes I go under, and then I charge that. So, um,
Okay.
it's hard to say sometimes. Sometimes you get into a dress and then you realize, oh, the waist seam has been sewn completely closed, which is a new thing. It used to be when I started out, you could get up into the inside of a dress because they don't sew the waist seams closed, but now they do. And I think that's part of the
I do
trend
not
of
know
this.
exactly what that means. Can you, in a
Oh,
nutshell, give like the
um,
listener an idea of what you mean? Like the waist seam. So is it like
so
across the front, like a horizontal seam?
so like usually when you have a dress, you have the outer layer, and
Okay.
then you have the lining layer. And then if you want to get up on the inside of the dress, you can flip it inside out.
Okay.
You can't really do that anymore because because the waist seams are the lining of the dress is
Uh-huh.
sewn to the outside layer of the dress at the waist.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you
Yeah.
don't have access to that. So you have to like remove all of that, like that seam to then continue doing what you need to do.
hmm
Okay.
To be able to get up in the sides, or some dresses are so sewn together at the waist, I have to hand sew the sides together. To if I'm taking in the sides, I have to hand do it by hand.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So as trends change, sometimes the sewing technique have to
You're
use
trying to
changes
learn
as well.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I'm kind of wondering, like my lack of knowledge in your trade, I just kind of was thinking about it, coming up with questions, and I imagine that tailoring or alterations is kind of a dying trade or maybe a lost skill. I wonder if like the younger generation just doesn't value having a like well-tailored suit or that kind of trade. And I'm wondering if that's a fair statement. And if so, why do you think that's the case?
I think that's a fair statement. I feel
Okay.
like a lot of people wear stretch and knitwear, a lot of looser fitting clothing. I pretty much tell every client that comes to me, this garment, your wedding dress, will be probably be the most fitted thing you will ever wear, and
Mm,
probably anticipate it won't be the most comfortable thing, but you'll look amazing.
uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I would say that's a fair statement because I think that's the case because most of our clothing is made overseas for very low cost. Like
Mm,
even wedding dresses are made overseas for a lower cost than what you could make a living wage in the US for.
yeah. Okay.
Right. So our clothing in a sense has become kind of
We've really
throwaway or
outsourced
fast
it.
fashion or outsourced to, like, yeah. And so also, like, and most people I've talked to have no idea how long alterations or making clothing takes, because it used to be that sewing was more cost effective than buying it from a store,
Okay.
but now it's just different because it's
It's
made
totally
overseas, right?
like
So
swapped and like you said, the material, the fabrics being so stretchy and that people that's interesting. Yeah, like there's not the level of like style and value in something being like perfectly fitted. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of clients who come to me have never had anything fitted, tailored, altered ever. So
I
yeah,
have just like one or two blazer jackets, and I have a couple of nice shirts that have these like big buttons, like just ridiculous buttons, and I don't know how to sew a button. So the only thing that I've taken to alterations is these blazer jackets, mostly because the sleeves were too long for my, for
yeah.
my arm length. And like having the buttons resewn, which I should know how to do. Like I feel like that was something that we went over in 8th grade, but obviously it didn't stick.
That no, it's funny, I agree. Would recommend actually everybody at least learning how to sew on buttons because I feel like a lot of our clothing, they're not sewn on very well even when you buy them brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, do a YouTube video. You could do a YouTube tutorial, show you how to thread a needle, knot it, and then just how to like put the button on there, and how to tie it off. Like, I'd
Yeah,
recommend that or taking a
I
sewing
should.
class.
I
Yeah.
really should. I have a button right now that's on my bathroom counter because my shirt. So I paid for this other button to be sewn on, and then another one popped off of this shirt. These are big, like they're just large, kind of slightly gaudy
Yeah.
but pretty. So, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. You know what? You've encouraged
Then you're
me. I
probably
will do
not
a
wearing.
YouTube video.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, you're probably not wearing that jacket just because like one button popped off, right? Like, or
Yes.
two. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's
Yeah.
out of my
See?
wardrobe right now. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
with like that in mind, like the idea of alterations kind of seems like a dying trade. How would you encourage a listener and the younger generation to value it? Do you have any thoughts for that?
Yeah, I think maybe yeah, like maybe taking a sewing class or even just like YouTubing it, like I had said. Like there's so many people out there that have made like their own YouTube sewing channel. And
Hmm.
then you can kind of see what it takes to pattern and like you take your measurements, you make a pattern, you cut, and then the pattern, is you've plugged your measurements into on paper. How do I explain that? Essentially with sewing, you're making something flat from a
Become a
pattern into
three-dimensional.
3D.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So yeah, so then you pattern and then you have your material and you put that on the material, like all that. It's a very big process from start to finish, like or maybe even Googling like how is a dress made? How it, and just seeing all the steps that go into making a dress
Uh-huh.
or a garment, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I think that I mean what you just said gets to the whole idea of our show and like things are more complex than what they seem. Like something
For
that you may
sure.
have not even thought about. There's nuance to it, and there's a great thing to pursue finding like the beauty in the complexity of the thing. So I like that. Like hop on YouTube, look up how a dress is made, see, like you mentioned, the templating that goes into it, the different sewing styles or patterns and such. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it
Um,
can get really intricate. Especially those beaded gowns or the gowns with lace,
oh, that's like not just a traditional cotton fabric or something simple.
Yeah. Then you get
Oh,
these elaborate special occasion dresses, and those have even more details put onto them? Yeah.
uh-huh. For in that regard, fashion design, let's talk about that angle. How do you keep up with trends? Do trends really matter? Like, what makes something a trend? Can we just explore all things with this topic?
Yeah. So what? A trend is a style that becomes fashionable for a period of time and influences masses of customers, brands, and products, yada yada. In this case, wedding dresses. But yeah, I mean, you maybe remember or have seen not obviously not remember, but you've seen pictures of your mom's wedding dress. Very
Like the
different than
80s-ish. Uh-huh.
yes, 80s or 70s. Like my mom was 70s, she had like an empire cut, so the waist was like right under her bust.
Okay.
And then you go into 80s and you get the big puff sleeves, and it's like that really set like kind of like liquidy satin stiff material.
Yeah.
And then
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then it's evolved. So like yeah, wedding dresses have trends,
What was
styles,
the
and they
like wait, we
change.
just did the 70s and 80s. What was the 90s? Do you
The
know? Was
90s
there a main like trend
was
of a 90s dress?
maybe more spaghetti strap with like a scoop
Okay.
neck.
Okay.
And then it started getting to strapless. When I started into it in 2010,
Mine was
sat
strapless. There you go.
okay, yeah,
2011.
strapless and satin and taffeta was really popular.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yep. You're talking my dress now.
yeah, yeah, sweetheart. And
Uh-huh. The
then
sweetheart cut.
now,
Okay.
yep. Um,
And
and
here I thought
then
I was original. You are ruining all of my
I'm sorry, I
just kidding.
know, but I guess I've been jaded in this
Ugh,
industry because of me seeing all the
just
styles as they
watch it.
change.
Uh,
Yeah.
where
And
are
then
we at
now
today? Yeah.
today is see-through. Today is basically the top part of the dress is see-through, and what's giving you your nipples coverage is like a nude insert.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I've had a
Okay.
decent amount of yeah, I've had
Whew.
a decent amount of brides ask for me to line the inside of the dress. so grandma
Oh.
can't see or think she can see her, her hoo-haws.
Lovely. But I'm wondering though, in a way, does that make it a little easier because you have less like fabric to sew today?
It's actually more difficult.
Oh, okay.
Because the material is tulle, it's usually 2 layers of tulle and then maybe like a stretchy lace,
Oh,
and then you
okay.
have to individually take those in. So maybe like when I first started out, you're maybe taking in 4 seams to take in the sides. Now it's like you're taking in 6 or you're taking in 8 seams because you're
Oh, okay.
individually taking in each of those layers, depending on
Mhm,
how the dress is made. But
mhm.
um, and it's very easy to make a hole in that kind of material when you're taking it apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you make a hole, like I'm guessing you have, how what do you like
Oh
cut a
yeah.
piece of somewhere like some obscure spot that they would never notice and do you have to like sew it into the spot or something?
Well, a lot of times it's dresses that have lace on it, and I'm removing the lace to get at the seam, and so a lot of times I end up taking it in enough that that hole disappears,
Oh, okay.
because I'm or if there's a little hole, I can cover it over with lace.
Okay.
So, you can do
Okay.
magical things with lace, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so next question. Do you ever find yourself in a sticky situation with a client where perhaps your client has this expectation of like, oh, I really want it to look this way. And you being the professional with all of your years of experience, you kind of you see what they're saying, but in your mind and knowledge, it's kind of like, oh, I don't think that's gonna look quite right. How do you navigate those sticky situations?
I mean, I give the client what they want, even if it's against my advice.
Okay.
And then I do the alterations the way they told me to. And then sometimes it turns out all right, but then sometimes they're not happy, but they often own up to me having it me like them asking me to do it that particular way. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
always like, "Well, if you want me to, like, fix it up some more, like, I will." But, um,
It
the
would take
they'll be
time
like,
and more
right,
effort and cost.
that'll be additional cost." Yeah. So,
Mhm.
like, in a scenario, it was some brides nowadays are wearing white jumpsuits. So was a jumpsuit. It was a one-shouldered asymmetrical jumpsuit. I
Okay.
advised sewing in inserts to give her more lift. Um, because where your bust sits depends how I alter your dress or how I altered the suit. And she didn't want the
Oh,
lift,
okay.
so she didn't have as much lift for her bust. So I had to alter it kind of funky because her boobs weren't sitting in the actual spot where the boob
It
should
really
be.
should be. Okay. So did she look kind
Yeah,
of lopsided? Like,
a little bit,
oh
but I
no.
altered it. I mean, well, maybe not quite lifted. I was able to kind of do kind of different kind of alterations to make it look good.
Okay.
But it didn't give her the lift that she needed. And once I was done, she could tell and she admitted, yeah, like, hey, oh, yeah, you were right. I should have had the
I should have
cups. I
done
see what
this.
you were saying. Yeah, 'cause she had, like, a special, like, ruching detail where if the boobs were sitting in the right spot, like, it would've laid better. So,
Oh, and
it still
accentuated it a
looked
little
good.
better. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's just getting things situated better, and yeah, it's just it happens sometimes, but she
You
still
just
looked
have
great.
to.
It just wasn't perfect, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Like you saw a better vision, but it couldn't quite get the customer on board with it.
On
And so
board,
customer is
yeah,
always right, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
there's that oh gosh, it's a Family Guy thing that my husband, he would be so proud of me for referencing this because I'm not usually the one referencing things, but it's that like skit where he's like, what did I say would happen? Exactly what I said would happen. When did I say it would happen? A long time ago.
Yeah, kinda like
It's like,
that, yeah.
mm-hmm. But like,
Yeah.
you're not saying that to the customer, but you can think that in your head the
No.
next time it happens.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna say I told you so. I always say, well, do you want me to take it apart again and redo
Hmm.
it? And they'll either
Yeah.
just say yes or no. But yeah, I always think it's your wedding day. It needs to be perfect. Like, how would I want it for my wedding? I don't want you to shortchange yourself on your own wedding day, it's kind of a
Yeah.
thing. So I'll go the
Awesome.
extra mile if you want me to. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Um, awesome. Okay, so last question before we wrap up. I enjoy recommending a book that overlaps with the topic. And so for our discussion today, is there any book in particular that inspired you or it meant a lot to you in your career?
Yeah, it was actually a textbook from college. It's called The New Complete Guide to Sewing, and it's by Reader's Digest. It's a very comprehensive book. It's I could learn stuff having sewn 25 years already, but a beginner could learn a lot as well. So no
Okay.
matter what skill level you are, I think it'd be good for anybody.
Now I'm curious, does this book, like, because you mentioned this was a college book for you, is this still a book in college for a lot of folks?
Oh, I have no idea.
Don't know. Okay.
Don't know, not sure. Maybe.
Well, I'll include it in the show notes. And for anyone listening, again, like, you want to YouTube and see how clothes come to be, or if you want to learn a little more about sewing, New Complete Guide to Sewing by Reader's Digest. Okay. Where can people find you if they wanted to, maybe they're in the, season of getting married and such. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me at my website. It's www.mensonique.com, and that is Mensonique.
Mhm.
And then same for like Instagram and Facebook at Mensonique. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Awesome. Well, thank
find me
you so
there.
much for chatting with me today. I hope that some of the listeners also just get to learn something they've never thought about, or it seems like just something that's under the radar for so many of
For
us,
sure.
but it's definitely valuable. And I'm sure a lot of brides are so thankful for the effort you put into their wedding dresses. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
all right, guys, thanks for tuning in to today's interview. I'm sure you love hearing Bill and I chat about various topics, but truly, in the heart of nuance, it is wonderful to bring on a guest and have a conversation. So I hope you enjoyed, and until next time.